want to talk to you about how to make sure your most loyal family member is taken care of. So specifically, we're going to be talking about estate planning for your pets. And when I say pets, I mean a broad range of animals. I've actually helped people protect dogs, cats, horses, snakes, turtles, parrots. So any sort of animal that you might own, trying to make sure that those animals are taken care of if something happens to you. So before we get into that, I want to talk to you a little bit about our firm. Our firm does both estate planning and elder law. So what that means is we help you protect your assets when they go to your loved ones, including taking care of your pets. We also help people make sure that if they have to go to the nursing home, they don't lose all their assets. So a little bit about our firm. We've helped over 6,000 families protect the assets that they leave behind to their loved ones from divorce, creditors, and lawsuits. We've also helped over 300 families implement the plans that we've designed, and over 1,200 families implement the plans that other attorneys have designed. And why that's important to you is because estate planning is kind of depressing. So you're going to want to put together a plan, put it on the shelf and forget about it. But what's important to you is that it takes care of you if it's needed, takes care of your pets if it's needed, and also takes care of your family if it's needed. Something that's kind of unique about our firm is we belong to an organization of 3,000 attorneys nationwide. So you get the experience of not only the attorneys in our office, but also the experience of other attorneys nationwide. And I have 4 books. If you're interested, we can send you a copy. The first one is the Who Gets Your Stuff When You Die. That is my most popular book. There's a video on the website on that book that if you want to have more information on it. There's also several videos on the different chapters of that book. The books in the middle are both related. They're talking about what your family should know if something happens to you, what your spouse should know if something happens to you. And we actually have on our website checklists that you can fill out to make sure that your family has the information they need if something happens to you. And the last one is a book on Alzheimer's. It specifically gives instructions to caregivers and also to people with Alzheimer's regarding the progression of the disease, some estate planning protections that you'd want to put in place. So in the United States, approximately 3 to 4 million pets are euthanized every year. And of that amount, 500,000 of those are euthanized because something has happened to their owner. So if we don't think through how to take care of our pets, they may not have a place to live, they may not have a person to take care of them. 67% of American pet owners treat their pet like family, but only 12% of those people have actually provided for them in their estate plan. Meaning only 12% of those people have thought through how is their pet going to be taken care of if something happens to them. And we really can't be sure that we're going to outlive our pets. Now, a lot of pets have shorter life expectancies, so the odds on us outliving them are pretty high. Actually, one of the trusts that I've done over the years was actually for a lady who had a parrot, and that parrot had a life expectancy of over 100 years. So not only did she have to think through who takes care of the parrot if something happens to her, but who takes care of the parrot if something happens to the next person in line, making sure there's enough money available to take care of the parrot, and thinking through that long of a period of time. The other one that I've done that was a long period of time was I had a lady who had a tortoise, and the tortoise also had over 100-year life expectancy. First, we got to think through if something happens to us, if we pass away, who takes care of our pets? But another question is, will people know to take care of your pets if you were in the hospital? So if you end up being in the hospital for a period of time, is somebody going to know that you have pets at home? Are they going to know what the right routine is as far as taking care of them? Are they going to have access to the house? And when thinking through who's going to take care of your pets if you can't, we need to look short term. So who takes care of them in the short run if you're in the hospital for a period of time or have some reason why they need to be taken care of for a short period of time. And then also looking long term, who would be willing to take care of them long term. And then a hard thing that I run into with a lot of my clients is what if you don't have somebody you trust to take care of them? Or you don't have somebody who has the ability to take on more animals? So Texas A&M actually has a program. It's related to their veterinary student program. And they actually will, for a certain amount of money, take care of your animals for their lifetime. They specifically limit it to small animals. So it'd be dogs and cats are the ones that they will take care of. The donation is kind of interesting in how they calculate it. It's not based on the animal's life expectancy. It's actually based on how old you are when you make the commitment to make the pledge. So if you were to decide at a relatively young age that whatever animals you have when you pass away, you would like A&M to take care of them. It's actually a relatively small fee because they're able to use that money during your lifetime. If you wait until you pass away and you're an older age, the fee is a little higher. But they actually have an incredible ranch out there where the animals are able to roam. And then the students in the veterinary care program actually then are able to take care of them and bond with them and spend time with them. One of the harder ones to try to figure out where your animals will go if you don't have somebody to take care of them is if you have horses. So horses in particular, there are 3 or 4 horse farms in the United States where you can actually donate your horse to the horse farm. And as you know, as a horse owner, it's very expensive to take care of a horse on an annual basis. And so they do require a relatively large donation in order to take care of your horse for the rest of their lives. But a lot of my clients, it's extremely important that their horses are well taken care of. And so they want to make sure that that's taken care of. And that's one option if you can't find another person that you know that has a horse that would be willing to take care of them. Now, in a minute, I'm going to talk to you about setting up a trust for any animal that you're leaving behind so that there's money available to take care of them. And really, if you think about it, horses are one of the more important ones to set aside money for because there's a lot of expense related to horses. So for all animals, I recommend a pet trust. And what the pet trust actually says is that my animals go to this person to take care of them. This amount of money comes along with the animal. And that way the needs of that animal are taken care of over their lifetime. The other advantage to setting it up in a trust instead of just giving the animal and the money to the person is for the what if something happens to the person you've named as a caregiver. So if you were to leave your dog to your best friend along with $10,000 and your best friend was then a year later unable to take care of your dog, that money wouldn't follow the animal unless it's inside of a trust. And so that's part of why we do that. The other thing is sometimes people will actually separate the person that's caregiving for the animals with who's managing the money. So you might have someone who's very compassionate, very good with animals, but not very good with money. And so if you have a separate person that's taking care of the money, then they can make sure that the animals are being cared for properly. They can give the caregiver money over time as needed, and there can kind of be a check and balance involved in that. Now, a lot of my clients will have it be the exact same person, so that's something we need to talk through as we put together a plan. Other important thing is to be sure when you're putting together a pet trust is that we identify the pet. Now, this is kind of an unusual story, but it's actually happened a few times. So there was a situation where a lady had left money to a caregiver for her dog. The caregiver was actually getting paid a large amount of money per month to take care of the dog, plus the expenses related to the dog, and the dog passed away. So the caregiver didn't want to quit receiving the money, so the caregiver actually went to an animal shelter, found an animal very close in how it looked to the original dog, and then tried to continue to collect the money. The person that was trustee became suspicious because the behavior of the dog was different and it didn't seem to be the same dog, and it turned out that the original dog was microchipped, and that's how they figured out that they had actually replaced it for a similar dog. Now, I hate to tell you, but occasionally people will do things like that. So you may want to make sure that the person that's trustee has a way to verify that the animal that's being taken care of is the original animal. So when we talk about specifically the expenses related to horses, I have lots of clients who have horses. We've set up pet trusts for them. And almost every one of them has very specific instructions on the blankets. So which blankets you use depending on what temperature it is outside. One of my more elaborate plans that I have a lady who actually has 6 different blankets for her horses depending on the temperature outside, and whenever she boards the horses, she wants the people that she boards them with to switch out the blankets depending on the temperature outside. And if you think about it, around here in one day, we could end up with using 4 or 5 different blankets depending on the temperature during the day. But she's going to need to make sure that she picks a caregiver that's willing to do that. And so she's actually found a place that she's boarded her horses at. She's found people there at the place that she trusts to do it how she wants it done and how the horses are used to being taken care of. Now, I have one client, we were setting up a trust for her horse. So I told you horses are expensive, and most of the time the expenses related to horses, we need to put aside a lot of money related to that. Now, this particular horse, they actually use him for breeding, and the amount that he nets is about $500,000 a year. But to take care of him in the manner to which he's become accustomed, they actually spend $2 million a year taking care of him. And so if the family was initially looking at this, they'd go, wait a minute, we're spending a ridiculous amount of money on this horse, but he's actually making money on top of that. But one of the things that's extremely important to her is that whatever money this horse earns stays inside the trust, because there's going to be one day where he can no longer earn those kind of fees. And at that point, she wants him to be taken care of just how he is being taken care of now. That way the family can remember that the money that's taking care of the horse is actually money that the horse has actually earned over his lifetime. So switching animals. So another animal that I've got a couple kind of unusual trusts set up for is cats. So I have one client, her cat is diabetic, and she actually gives the cat shots for diabetes twice a day. She actually won't leave town, won't leave the cat, because she's concerned that whoever takes care of the cat might not follow the routine that she has with the cat as far as taking care of the cat. And so when we set up the trust, we've got to think through, who does she trust to come in and give the cat shots twice a day? And she's also the type of person that wants the cat kept alive almost no matter what, whatever care it needs over time. And so we've got to make sure that there's enough money available to do that. Now I have another client who has a cat, and they've actually designed the house around the cat. So what they did is they took a screened-in porch, they tore up the concrete, and so now there's dirt underneath the screened-in porch. They planted trees and grass. They have a cat door from the house to the screened-in porch area, and so that way the cat can actually live indoors most of the time, but anytime it wants to go outside, it can go outside inside the screened-in porch. That way it's protected from any predators, but it still has the experience of being able to go outside. And so this particular person has set up a trust. They've actually got a family friend who's agreed to come live in the house. That family friend is going to be paid $6,000 a month in order to live with the cat as long as the cat survives. And then once the cat passes away, then the house will be sold and divided among family members. Now, every time I tell this story, I have people volunteer to be the person to live with the cat. But you think about it, it's interesting. But I told you at the beginning that over 500,000 pets are euthanized every year because their owner passes away. And if you think about it for cats, probably a good percentage of those animals are cats. And the reason why is because most people, when you adopt a cat, you're going to want to adopt a kitten. So that way you can bond with the cat, spend time with it, train it how you want it trained. And so the odds on an adult cat getting adopted are pretty low. So if you think about making sure that your cat's taken care of, and if you think about the person that has the indoor-outdoor environment, this cat is used to a certain environment, a certain place to live, and it might not adapt well if it gets moved to somewhere else. So in thinking about any animal that you're leaving behind, what is the pet care routine? So I've already talked to you about different types of blankets for horses. I've talked to you about a cat that's used to an indoor-outdoor environment. But thinking through what type of food they like. So we had a very unusual cat many years ago, and that cat refused to eat wet food. And so we went out of town, and my mother-in-law was taking care of the cat, and we'd been gone about 3 days, and she's like, I keep putting food out, and the cat keeps not eating it. And she was trying to treat it with wet food. So we had dry food we left behind, she was putting out wet food, and the cat would absolutely refuse to eat the wet food. I don't know why, because if you think about it, most cats would probably be the opposite of that. But if you don't leave instructions, then how is the person taking care of your cat or your animal going to know that that's actually normal behavior for the cat? If you put that food out, they're not going to accept it. Also, one of the kind of funny things, my husband has actually trained 3 different cats that we've had to sit. And so shortly after we got the cats, he would put a treat out, he would get them to sit, and then he would give them the treat. So the last cat that we had actually would go to this position where James told it to sit, and it would sit, and then it would meow and demand a treat. So if you think about it, the person that was actually trained was us, because it would go and sit, and then it would make a certain noise, and then we would go and bring it a treat. So really it was us that was trained, because we were all proud we trained a cat to sit, but if you think about it, it had actually trained us. If it sat and made a certain noise, we were supposed to show up with a treat. And it would actually get really insistent if we didn't do our part of the trick. Also, you've got to make sure people know medicines, routines, for the animals so that they know how to take care of them. So another thing you've got to make sure of in your estate planning documents is, do the people you're putting in charge have authority to take care of your pets? So one of the things we add to your financial power of attorney is the authority of the person you've named to take care of your pets and to spend money on your pets. And the reason why that language was added, I told you at the beginning we belong to organizations with 3,000 attorneys nationwide. One of those attorneys had a situation where the parents had actually had animals that they'd taken care of for years. They were very sick at the same time the parents were sick. And the daughter had actually come in and was taking care of the animals. She spent an amazing amount of money on the animals with surgeries and different procedures and things, but it would have been exactly what the parents would have done if they were the ones managing the money. So then her parents pass away. Her brother then sues her and says there's nothing in our parents' documents that give you authority to spend this money on the pets. And so therefore, the money needs to come back into the money being divided. And because he was correct, nothing in the documents gave her authority to spend money on the pets, he actually won the lawsuit and she had to reimburse for the medical expenses she had spent on the parents' animals. Now she was able to present proof in court that the parents had spent lots of money on animals in general during their lifetime, and in this situation they would have spent the money for the surgeries that she had done. But because the documents didn't authorize her to do that, she actually lost the lawsuit. So we have added to our financial power of attorney the authority of the people that you name to take care of the pets in the manner to which you would take care of them. And that's another important thing to think through with instructions, is everybody's a little bit different on how far they will go to take care of an animal. So if the people taking care of it don't know how far you want them to go or how much care you would want to put in place, then they may not go that far. So I've had clients who have animals that they have done dialysis on to keep their kidneys functioning. I've had clients who've had chemotherapy for their pets in order to help them recover from cancer. There's also situations where some people in those situations would go ahead and euthanize the animal instead of doing that type of treatment. So really your level of care for your animals is really specific to you, and you've got to make sure the people you're asking to take care of them understand the level of care that you're going to want them to go to. We would love to meet with you to talk through how to protect your family, and specifically on how to protect your animals, to make sure that as a very important part of your family that they're taken care of as well as everybody else.